So first, by way of introduction, I just want to say to you that I have been an educator in Metro West for over 30 years, and I, before that, taught in New York City public schools and Malden public schools before coming to Framingham as a theater and English teacher in the middle schools. And I would say to you that whether I was serving as on my high school hockey team, as captain of the field hockey team, or one of 9 sisters, or as 7th grade English teacher on a teaching team, team is in my blood. And that is actually the subject of my doctoral research, and it is what I teach at Boston College in the Educational Leadership Program, how to create high-functioning teams. So the first message for Newton is, if we're gonna thrive, it's a city thriving team. It's not just the schools, it's not just fire or police or DPW. And I have been used to, in the last 20 years, in my former work in the Natick public schools, in having that kind of sisterhood and brotherhood with our other municipal departments, so that we can create a thriving city plan for the future. So I am very much looking forward to getting to know our new mayor candidate, whoever that is, and my new bosses on the school committee. As you can imagine, it's a weird thing to have to, for over a year, watch the public interviews of your future bosses. But to that end, just know that I will leave at the end of my remarks. It is not appropriate for me to be involved with the school committee election in any way. So I will leave. It is not because I am not interested. I'm reading every word about it, but I cannot be associated with any portion of the election or anything, putting my thumb anywhere on it, because I won't. I will work with whatever committee comes to us, and they will be the best committee for the Newton Public Schools because you chose them. So I do want to say to you, though, that we are at a crucible moment for the Newton Public Schools, my assessment, and that crucible is about trust and whether the community has confidence in our public schools to send their children there and to feel that they will thrive there. Collaboration, are we going to be able to come together in terms of collaborative services across the city? Will people have confidence here and believe that continuing to have a home here means that you have the best services possible and that your home values will grow? And finally, I want this city and our schools to be a place where private investors want to continue to work with us in public-private partnerships to enhance and accelerate the work of the Newton Public Schools. It's a very important time, and I suspect that if we align our resources and gain the trust of the public back in a way, we will be an exemplar for the nation. Newton is full of very smart, educated people, but also a diversity of socioeconomic statuses, language, culture, and understandings. If we know how to do this well, we are teaching the nation how to lead their schools in the future. FYI, we are one of the largest employers in the city of Newton. We are definitely the largest food service and transportation and mental health service provider. We also provide academic programming, athletics, and arts programming. We are a big business in the city. Just a little bit about how I approach public education. Public education is a social contract with our community. It is a pledge that we make to families and kids that you can get what you need when you need it in this school system. I am a product of public schools. I am one of 9 kids. There is no way my parents were sending us to private schools. And one teacher took an interest in me and pushed me and pushed me and pushed me. And I thought there was no higher calling than to be exactly like Bob Corrigan, high school English teacher. And little did I know, I could not just sit there and be that English teacher, because there was somebody had to be the tip of the spear for public schools, and that is me. And now you're stuck with me. But I do see that public education as a contract. So, and that means we have to be deeply transparent about what we're doing in the schools, and we need to come to you with information all the time. Public schools changes lives, public schools breaks isolation of families, and public schools are the heart of a city and a thriving community. And so that's how I approach this work, and that is how I try to envision our work together. So what does thriving mean? We changed our logo recently from Newton Public Schools, Equity and Excellence, to a place where every student can thrive. There was a lot of conflict about whether we could have equity and excellence together. What we want is thriving children. And what that means is that we're going to have to make a heavier investment in Newton Public Schools right now to address the over 15 years of neglect in basic services in schools. Buildings, curriculum, assessment, and intervention. And our story is that we have lost the trust in some ways of our families, so they request services and supports in a way that shows us that lack of trust. Our special education requests for evaluations and for requests for one-to-one aids is higher than I've seen anywhere in Metro West or New England. Why? Because there isn't the trust in the Tier 1 curriculum, basic general curriculum in the gen ed classroom. And when that happens, parents are desperate. They want their children to succeed, and if the only tool we have is special education and not differentiated experiences, pathways, and levels within schools on a daily basis, we are going to continue to pit special education against general education, and that is what is happening in the city. Thriving means that we have student supports and we have advanced learner experiences. It means that we are leading the way in the Commonwealth, not catching up with other school systems, and that we have options for students that have been added to other cities and towns across Metro West in particular and in the Commonwealth. And I want to be really clear. That doesn't mean we don't have excellent teachers. Those teachers have been doing 10 times the amount of work that they should be doing, and they've been doing administrator work that they shouldn't have had to do. And so there is this very heavy burden on teachers who have been the excellence of this school system, and they need our support. That said, we also need to create alignment and trust across the community so you know exactly what we're doing with each tax dollar. But I need reliable, stable funding in order to build those improvements and to settle contracts, not either or, and not to pit paying teachers a good wage with program improvements. We should be able to do both and to balance that across the years. I don't want to pit salary expenses against programs and services. Newton Public Schools teachers are some of the most experienced in the Commonwealth. 49% of our staff have been here over 25 years. That is different from the rest of Metro West. By the way, I serve as the Tri-County Superintendent President, Norfolk, Worcester, and Middlesex County. And for the last 3 years, I was also the New England Supes president. So I have a good penetration into sort of what's the landscape. So the city has valued teacher longevity over time, and it's worked. Our teachers have stayed. But what that means is that the salaries are what the salaries are until the next generation of teachers comes up. When I started teaching 35 years ago, there weren't teachers who were 40 and 50 years old because Proposition 2.5 laid off all that entire generation of teachers. And so this is the first time that in the Commonwealth that we have aged staff through to the 50s and 60s of their age bracket. And so that is just a challenge we have. The teachers are strong and they have been doing extra work, and we should balance that with additional services for them. Over the last 2 years, we've undertaken a stakeholder engagement process where 150 different individuals from business, leadership, the teachers union, parents, kids, Chamber of Commerce, all showed up to create our next set of mission statement, vision statement, core values, and a long-range strategic plan called the Thrive 2030 plan. It will take the system through to 2030, and it's all here, and you're going to get this PowerPoint from Stephen afterwards, so you can look at it in detail. So there's no secrets what we're up to over here. It's 5 years. It tells you exactly what we're going to be working on for the next 5 years and what I'll be asking to be funded throughout the school system. It's linked right here. What are the major areas that the community told us they were concerned about? Student learning and well-being, a balance between rigorous academics, but also caring services and mental health services for the large number of students who are in need of those services now. Investment in finances and facilities. So the mayor has done a wonderful job of accelerating the building project scenarios, but we have a lot of buildings with a lot of needs, and we need a plan for taking care of those on a regular basis, not in spurts every once in a while, so that taxpayers like you are not unduly burdened with aggressive spurts of building changes. Community engagement. During my first year here as a superintendent, we were in a very difficult contract negotiation, and there was work to rule activity. I really couldn't speak to teachers for the first year. Now we are talking all the time, but in that first year I had to focus on students and families, and what students and families told me was they felt kept at an arm's length from understanding what was happening in the schools. And that's never a good place for us to be, because you are children's first teachers, and we need to work with you in order to understand how you understand what the services are we're providing. So two-way partnership and communications, building a strong alumni network, and ensuring that we stay connected and informed and invested in Newton Public Schools as a community. And then finally, a human resources focus on employing those highly skilled workers, being an attractive place to work to attract the folks who will come in when our folks retire who have been here over 25 years. We want it to be a destination place to work, and we are doing all that we need to in order to attract those people into our workforce now, which includes pipeline educator training programs, graduate programs that are grant funded, and partnerships. For example, we just created a partnership with Boston College where we've become a federal work study site for Boston College so that students can work off their loans and their debts by working for us in a variety of places. That's never been the case before. We have had partnerships with student teachers in Boston College. We also have that with LaSalle University and Mount Ida as well. So the good news about having a new leader in an organization is fresh eyes take a look at the old budget. And so I want you to know that we have reorganized and created efficiencies over the last 2 years before we even come to the budget table. And what have we tried to focus on? Early reading and math intervention and a strong general ed curriculum. So very much getting back to basics in some ways. But that meant that we had to reschedule and modernize elementary school schedules so that we could more efficiently and effectively schedule. So we are now able to do more support and intervention for less money than we were doing for the last 5 years. We reduced administrative costs at the central office by $2.2 million. We cleaned up duplicative spending. We did raise fees to families and vendors, and we obtained grants. 3 years, $3 million for this year so far. I'm just getting started. And other federal grants, et cetera, of course, are too volatile to count on, but we do receive those entitlement grants. I'm talking about grants from private vendors and from private individuals to assist with our change efforts. Certified staff, we had about 350 uncertified staff when I arrived here. I'm happy to report to you that those staff issues have been remediated in the last 2 years. And we have begun to reduce special education aides and out-of-district special education placements in schools outside of Newton because we are able to strengthen our internal programming despite rising complexity in terms of student need. If you've heard me speak before, you can understand that when I say the words Mass Tiered System of Support, MTSS, what I'm talking about is intervention services for students in math and English language arts. And what you're seeing here are evaluations for special ed services in 23-24 and then in 24-25, so blue and orange. So when parents feel more confident in what they're hearing from us and what they're seeing in terms of student progress, there's less of an impetus to ask for testing that they may or may not need. Special education testing, if you need it, you should get it. But it's a very costly process, both in time and money, and it may result in services that could be remediated by just plain old good general education services. Over here, I just want you to know that we are tracking very carefully our student literacy achievement at our elementary schools. What you're seeing here is we were only able to invest in this MTSS program in 5 schools last year because the way the budget shook out. So we chose our 5 neediest elementary schools, needy defined by high need students who had the lowest scores across the system in math and ELA. And I'm happy to report to you that 71% of the students receiving those interventions achieved above average growth on our math and English language arts skill benchmarking. That's in 1 year. Imagine what we could do with 2 years of stability and scale it across the entire 15 elementary schools that we serve. The Ainger School was recently designated as a National Blue Ribbon School. And I can say to you that the principal there, Orla Higgins, has long been an expert of MTSS, but she was an island unto herself, no system around her. She was just making arrangements within Ainger, and it worked. So if we're looking at special education aids, that's the blue bar, and the students with disabilities is the red line. You can see that the Ainger School, through excellent support services in general education, has consistently reduced the financial burden on Newton taxpayers by creating a better support system. We are looking to scale what Orla and her team at Ainger has done across the school system. Every child deserves that. Should not be the side of town or the elementary school that you happen to roll into that determines whether or not you can get this level of service. This is just those numbers that I told you about of reducing special education aids from 2016 to 24-25. That's a significant reduction in staffing costs. Better yet, she was able to show growth of 169% for each child who was below grade level. We would expect in a typical year 100% growth. That's a year's worth of growth. So at Ainger, when you're in these intervention groups, you're getting more than double the amount of progress. Every kid in Newton deserves that. In addition, over the last 10 years, the system has done extraordinary programming in special ed. I've never seen more special ed programming in a system and done at a high quality level. But what that means is that there's more staff that has to go to in-district special ed programs than in other places in Metro West. Districts tuition students out to places like the New England Children's Center for Autism or other types of residential and day programming. Newton mostly keeps its students here. We do pay about $16 million this year in out-of-district tuitions. Imagine if we didn't have the full range of programs that we have now. Over time, we've been able to return students from out-of-district placements. So since 2019, we've been able to attract back from those placements 40 individual students who, if they're out usually till their senior year. So that's just an indication of how strong the programming is for those students. And this fun graph tells you how the state funding to help us pay for those out-of-district tuitions has gone down. That is the yellow line right there. That's how much funding we get back from the state. The state has not held up its end of the bargain by fully reimbursing what's called circuit breaker, which is the special ed mechanism for us getting money back after we spend dollars on out-of-district tuition. So you can see that we're reducing the number of students who are outplaced, the amount of money is not keeping pace, and yet we still have to pay for those out-of-district placements. I do want to give you a super bright spot in our community. Welcome. Our career technical school over at the North High School is a third high school that is often not known about within the city. I just show you here that there's other vocational career technical high schools across the state, but we do exactly what they do for a fraction of the cost. So Minuteman, Shawshing, and Norfolk Agricultural High School, you can see that the cost of running these schools is quite high in 23 and 24, and we educate 900 vocational students at Newton North High School for $1.8 million a year. Now, the school is snuggled within another infrastructure, but I just need you to know that is very, very expensive services to provide those shops and those internship placements. And we are actually looking to expand the programs that we're going to offer here. So when Stephen asked me to talk about the vision for the future, students are hungry to be certified to go right into the world of work right after they get out of high school, while they pursue other post-graduation activities. We're seeing a lot more kids taking gap years. That COVID generation of kids is, let's just say, they need a little bit more baking before they go out into the world. I'll say my own son, who's 23, is in that boat too. He feels a little bit like 18 to me, even though he's 23. So we are looking to expand by 3 shops: dental assisting, medical assisting, and information systems technology. So you'll hear me talking about that through the budget season this year as well. It's not an accident that we have been meeting with business and industry leaders to see what are the skills you want the Newton Public Schools children to graduate with. Top skills in this is the Future of Jobs report, tells us that analytical thinking, active learning, complex problem solving, these are what employers are after, not necessarily content knowledge. So with that in mind, we undertook another process of having about 100 community members come together, and we studied the job market. We looked at trends across the United States and the world for jobs. And these are the Portrait of a Learner competencies that were chosen by the community. Now, that doesn't mean this is all we do. We still do math and English and social studies and all those things, but all on the way to how do we fulfill the citizens' promise that the next generation of students have what it takes to lead us, to work for us, and to be the citizens that you are now, trying to be engaged in making the world a better place. So I've made a little video for you here just so that in very few minutes, I can explain to you the difference between Newton schools in 1994 and 2025. Because I'll just give you one example of a funny interaction I had I was at Whole Foods getting lunch one day, and this gentleman said to me, "I hear you have athletic trainers on staff." And I said, "That's right." And he said, "Are you kidding me? Is that where my tax dollars is going?" I said, "Well, tell me what you think it is." And he said, Are you giving them like boutique gym classes so that they can be bodybuilders and things like that?" And I said, "It's not fitness training." I said, "The Mass Interscholastic Association of Athletics makes us have a trainer for safety reasons, concussions, broken bones." He was like, "Oh, that's one state mandate I just told you about that had one taxpayer very angry with our waste and fraud, which we are required to have it by the state of Massachusetts." So I tried to create a picture of all those things so you could hear about them here. Let me know if the volume is too much.
Public schools have always been a cornerstone of American society. Over the past 2 decades, Newton's schools have transformed remarkably. These changes reflect the evolving needs of our students and community. Today's classrooms have expanded dramatically in scope and responsibility. Our schools adapt to meet the diverse needs of all students. Today's students face pressures and complexities we could hardly have imagined decades ago. The rise of social media, climate change, and economic uncertainties weigh heavily on young minds. Schools now serve diverse learning styles, cultural backgrounds, and socio-economic situations. This diversity enriches the learning environment, but demands more resources and support. Modern schools have become much more than places of academic instruction. They have evolved into essential community hubs, providing a safety net for students and families facing a range of challenges. All schools now offer free breakfast and lunch programs to ensure that all students have access to nutritious meals. Recognizing the growing need for mental health support, all schools have integrated counselors and social workers on our staff. Schools are on the front lines of addressing the mental health crisis affecting our youth and are the crucible where family values and philosophies often create community conflicts, which also affect the student learning environment. One of the most significant changes in public education is the commitment to inclusion. Federal law mandates that all students receive a free and appropriate public education, including students who, decades ago, would not have attended public school. Schools have new mandated roles such as special education staff, behavior analysts and technicians, and assistive technology and medical experts. This inclusive approach ensures all students can learn and grow in a supportive environment. Newton does not outsource its students to private placements wherever possible. We serve our children in their neighborhood schools. A new generation, a new standard. Newton's student population is vastly different from previous generations. We represent a rich tapestry of cultures, languages, and backgrounds. This diversity is a strength, but presents unique challenges. Parents and the community have higher expectations. Education is key to success in a global economy. Schools must equip students with critical thinking, problem solving, and digital literacy, preparing students for a lifetime of learning and adaptation. Preparing for the future. Career and vocational programs. Recognizing that not all students are college-bound, schools have expanded their offerings to include robust career and vocational programs. These programs provide students with practical skills and industry certifications, preparing them for success in a variety of trades and technical fields. High schools now offer courses in automotive technology, radio and TV broadcasting, early child education and care, culinary arts, drafting, carpentry, and business. With the cost of college increasing 37% in the past decade, these technical programs are essential for addressing the growing skills gap and ensuring that our local economy has a pipeline of qualified workers. Investing in our future. Understanding school expenses. The increased scope of services and support provided by schools naturally comes with a price tag, and we want all residents to know how we are investing funds. School expenses have risen in recent decades, driven by factors such as special education mandates, rising busing and other contractual personnel costs, energy costs, and the need for updated technology and facilities. It's important to remember that investing in education is an investment in our community's future. Well-supported schools attract and retain quality teachers, provide students with the resources they need to succeed, and contribute to a thriving local economy. Our Thrive promise to our students. Supporting Newton schools. The evolution of Newton's public schools reflects our community's commitment to providing all students with the best possible education. We wanted to thank you for your support. Our schools are tasked with a monumental responsibility, preparing young people for a future filled with both promise and uncertainty. By working together, we can ensure that our schools have the resources and support they need to continue their vital work. The future of our community depends on the success of our schools, and their success depends on all of us.
So just a couple more things, and then I'm happy to open it to questions. I just need you to know that that complexity, along with 15 years of needing strategic investments in the system and not being able to do that, our last year's capture of mid-year of grade 3 students and their reading levels is that 40% were not at or above grade level. Now, that was shocking for me to hear. I've been next door in Natick for 20 years. That is an unacceptable piece of data for us to have here. So now, funny enough, hold on to your hats, 75% of kids are at or above grade level in math. So I've been poking at that, and if there are parents in the audience here, I can tell you that the number one thing everyone wants is a new math program in the school system, and it's happening, so know that. We just presented the launch of it recently. But when I'm poking around asking, well, why is this so high, the achievement in math, and so low, the achievement in language arts? There's few answers for that, but one, we didn't put a science of reading-based curriculum in until 2 years ago. And it's been hard because Newton teachers are used to creating their own materials, and they've put their blood, sweat, and tears into it. So, and I was a teacher, I know that feeling. But we were excellent by luck, not by leadership. And we cannot allow that to be the case. The teacher you have shouldn't dictate the excellence your child experiences. So that's a shift in thinking. But then parents have outsourced math instruction to cottage industries like Russian math or other tutors. The same cottage industry doesn't necessarily exist for English language arts in the same way. And I've been joking parents like, so what are you doing at dinner, math facts? And they're like, yes. So I'm like, okay, well, how about you guys read together a little bit too? So when Stephen asked me to talk about the future goals, we have to fix this problem with literacy. And we need parents to not feel they have to spend their thousands of bucks on outside services. We should be the place where they feel confident in the services. Our students farther from justice are continuing to decline in performance. Black and Latino students, ELL students, that's English language learner, and students with disabilities have not improved in the last 10 years. And if we're pushing a change agenda, we must serve these students well and get them what they need when they need it. We talked about the trust struggle with families, embracing change. Change management is always difficult. But also we have this sort of society with a culture of division right now, and institutions like schools are not trusted in the same way that they were before. So we don't have any money in the bank to say to parents like, we got this, we're your public schools. So we have to run aggressively towards the things that parents are telling us will restore that confidence. So we'll deal with our old and outdated buildings. We are one of the very few schools in Metro West that does not have early college and certification programs, so students can take college credits within high school. We have growing mental health needs for our students, and the curriculum has not been updated in almost 2 decades, with the exception of elementary math and elementary reading, which has been a recent development. So what I think Newton needs to thrive is funds for these ongoing programs that we want to put into place, funding for full schedules for high school students. Right now, many students are underscheduled within their school day. Expansion of career vo-technical programs. We actually need materials so students can do lab sciences in the robust way that they're expected to do so. Sustainability plans for laptops, projectors, and things like hearing and amplification systems within the school system. After school options for elementary school students, electives for high school students. And we need to be out in front on the first steps towards universal preschool for Newton residents. That is, other districts are going there. I don't want to be late to that game the way that Newton was late to full day kindergarten. We know that remediating those literacy issues before students get to grade 3 exponentially catapults them into a future of difference. So we really want to get to that place. We also need things funded like sports transportation. Right now, we are not fully funding the way that students can get to certain games. And we're also, our school schedule means that we're so late in the day that most of the busing in the region is already employed by people who get out of school earlier than we do. So it's really impacting our capacity to get kids to athletics. If I didn't have a car as a kid, I wouldn't have been able to do high school athletics if the school didn't bus me. So that's a real difficulty for a lot of our kids. And we talked about career tech programs. I should also say to you that advanced and extension opportunities at elementary and middle schools, and things like robotics programming and coding and those types of robust STEM activities are not present in our elementary schools at this time. So we do have a lot of work to do. I feel confident we can do it, but we really are struggling with the budget situation and not having the reliable funds to do that. So as I said before, we want to get out of this, we want to get out of this cycle of that we're in, of like the true costs of running our school system are hidden to families, so they seek outside solutions to problems. You know, we are still post-COVID learning needs. Our 5th graders started kindergarten in COVID. So just think about that group of kids. They're a little different than other generations of kids. There's low confidence in general education, so we're seeking a lot of special ed services. And the funding agreements that are made each year can't be counted on. And this is where I get my fire up, because we need to have a sustainable budget that I can count on. I spent my entire spring, instead of working on teaching and learning, fighting for a budget that was less than the prior year. And I will do that, but that doesn't seem like a great use of time when we could be pushing forward into a better future for the kids. I do want to say, a fair question to ask us is, well, you're 1,000 kids down. How come the budget still goes up? That's a fair question. What I need you to know is those mandates from the state require more staffing. And if we continue to not win the day with families on regular education, special education is just more costly. And so we are in this weird loop that we need to break out of, And just, I think some short-term investments in our budget would get us there, because we're already starting to see, as you saw in the 5 schools that we showcased to you, we're starting to get there. Let's see. I just wanted to share with you that the last 3 years, I've put out a 5 budget scenario for many years, with the green being the Thrive budget, right? If everything that the superintendent said we need, we got, that would be over here. But I remember when I started with the team aspect, I understand that I'm not the only kid in the family here, in the Newton municipal family. So, but it is my job to tell you that that's what we could be. That's my entire job, is to say this is what's the best for Newton kids possible. So the last few years have brought us budgets that are either less than level service, or slightly above level service plus. So just know that the financial forecast coming out next week will continue to have us in this realm. I do want to take an opportunity just to tell you that the allocation from the city is one thing, but we have been expected for the last 6 years to actually stop spending in January, put a budget freeze on the current budget, to pull between between $4 and $5 million in some years. So we're looking at, this is how much I've had to cut the budget within the school year each year in order to make it balance, which effectively means that I've been running the school system on a 2.47% increase, a 2.6. The first year that I got here was 0.59% increase over the previous year. And this year it will be 2.43. So even though I got a budget, I don't really get it. I have to cut it off in January and hope that I can save the money to balance it. Our contracts that sit currently, busing, special ed, out of district, teacher pay, all of those things, it's at 4.25% if we do nothing new. So, spoiler alert, there will be issues again. Now, we're going to have a mayor transition, so I don't know what that's going to look like. But I just have to say to you that this reality does not bring us the programmatic improvements that bring us the trust that our families will have in us. So you're going to hear on Monday's financial forecast that we will receive a 5% increase. That's a 5% increase after $5 million was cut from our budget last year. So that's $5 million basically doesn't get us back to level. So now it may not turn out that way, because I'm here and I'm the tip of the spear and it's not going to happen that way. But I just want you to know that's what we're facing again. And so the collective teachers will hear that Monday and they'll say things to me like, should I be worried about my job? And that's not fulfilling that promise of the great place, the destination premier workplace that I shared with you.